to the podcast.
Thanks, Brenda. Good to see you again.
You too. I think this is number 3, I wanna say, for you, because we did the, Chinese
Yes.
farm,
Yeah.
which is one of the most downloaded. It's
There
so
really is. I love that story, though. I
I
really
do
do.
too. It's so, so helpful. So that if you haven't listened to that one, search on our website, Chinese farmer, and that one will come up. And then we did another one, and I think it was about boundaries, actually.
Go figure.
'Cause you were like the boundary boss.
Um, so, I tried it. Yes, I was with him in my whole life. I'm still working. I'm still work in progress on
Yeah.
boundaries. But
Yeah,
I think that's something we always work on.
it is, and they change, which is the interesting thing, is they don't it's not like you set a boundary. I mean, in some things you do with some of your core values, but as people change and households change and all
The
that.
situation changes. It
Yeah,
has to be fluid. Not too
absolutely.
fluid, though.
Say fluidish is
Yeah,
what we say.
I agree. I agree.
So, Dina and I were together, actually, we had a little offsite for the Hope Stream leadership team. We all work remotely, and I don't know, maybe I am just old school because I worked in an office for so long, and you worked in a school setting where you were
Yes.
in person every day with the people that you worked with, and it just made things so much easier because you're there and you can just walk over to somebody and say, "Hey." And so working remotely, it's a little trickier, so we're trying to find ways to stay all aligned, and so we had an offsite, which was lovely. For 3 days, we got to be together.
We were so fortunate. I
It
mean,
was
that was just fantastic and so needed. Like you said, not just to see each other face to face, but to collaborate ideas and bounce the energy off each other. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I think that is what I miss most about working in an office is that energy that you get, especially, like, if you have a deadline coming up or there's a big project that you're working on together. So, anyway, the point of saying that was that we were together and we started having this conversation about how we become so, inoculated to what is normal. Now, obviously, there is no approvals, but what is, I would almost say, healthy, like a healthy environment to live in,
Yeah,
a
the
safe.
norm of health, right? The norm of health.
Yeah, and I don't know how we got talking about that among the million things that we talked about, but everybody was nodding like, "Yes, this is something that we need to talk about, not only because we've experienced it, but because we see it in the community, in the stream with our moms." So, that is what we thought we would tackle today. And let's start out by just having you share, because you do so much coaching with so many of our members in the stream community, but also outside. When we say emotional safety,
Mhm.
that could that could be kind of vague. So how would you describe or how would you define emotional safety?
That's a great question. It's a good starting question because I think emotional safety for me means that I'm not giving 100% of my inside, my soul, who I am and what I represent to any one entity. And I think it's so like to reserve some for me because I think especially as women, we're givers.
Yeah.
It's easy to give 100% of your resources away, including your emotional state of mind, whether it be to your kids, to your spouse, partner, to your work. Uh, Very rarely do we give 100% of ourselves to our hobbies or to the things that fill our soul. We're
Yeah.
usually giving and we don't retain enough of our resources, which to me is time, energy, and money, but we don't um, retain enough of our resources to stay healthy. So we
Yes.
end up being burnt out. We end up feeling resentful. We end up not having enough balance in our life to be what we want to be for other people. So I don't know if that was too long of an
Mhm.
answer, but it
No.
means to me, it means giving all of yourself away and not reserving some of your emotional state for yourself.
That is extremely true. I can identify with so much of that. And I think I would add to that emotional safety for me means, and I'm really specifically thinking back to when my son was really struggling. It means that you can feel like you can say what you need to say without having to pre-plan it. Not like we often say, practice your conversations, right? As part of
Right.
the invitation to change. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is if I say it this way, is he going to blow up? Or if I say
Yes.
this to her, is she going to start screaming? Or I know another fear is if I say this, is it going to cause them to then go self harm or use?
Yes.
And to me, that is not an emotionally sound or healthy way to live because you're constantly questioning how you're saying
Everything.
everything.
Everything out of your mouth, every behavior, how you react to them. And I think that's a danger because we just did a, invitation to change on that. That it's okay to express your feelings because so many of us stray away from that out of fear of what you said. That's going to be the thing that puts them over the edge. That they are so mentally unstable that anything we say or do could be the end of it. And taking on that much responsibility first isn't accurate. Like if we don't have that much control.
Right.
Um, but secondly, like you said, is so unhealthy because it prevents us from ever having an outlet for our own feelings. So I love that you said that.
Yes. So I think that just in case people are saying, like, well, what do you mean emotionally safe? I think it's pretty clear what we mean by physically safe, to be physically safe in your own home or in your own relationships. And this is something that we cover at the beginning of every one of our sessions in the stream. And I used to think, oh, maybe that's too much, you know. And then as you listen to people's stories, and I'm sure you hear these in your coaching sessions of, well, I put a lock on my door for a couple of reasons. One, because often there is theft and that makes total sense, but also from a safety standpoint, like I need to be able to have a place I can go to be safe. And when we're talking about this normalizing the abnormal, that is not normal to have to put a lock on your door in your own home to feel safe.
Right. And there are so many parents who feel the need to do that, which I'm a proponent of being safe and I'm a proponent of having a sacred space in your home that's yours alone. But when you're worried about your physical safety and you're not doing it for your mental health, I think that crosses a line that becomes abnormal. And so many people think that's normal. It's not. And having a lock there isn't necessarily the worst thing, but thinking it's normal to have a lock in your own home is
Right.
not normal.
Right. Now, a lock for privacy, a
Yeah.
lock. And also, I do think that there is a time when we know our kids are at higher risk of being susceptible to theft because they are withdrawing and they really need a substance and they're going to look for whatever. Again, not normal, but I really worry when I hear our members and other people talk about doing things like that for safety and kind of almost laughing it off or making it sound like, well, that's where we are right now. And so that's a big one. And I think it's so hard to talk about this because who wants to say or admit or even kind of think in our own brain that our child could hurt us? That is the
Right.
worst, worst possible thing to think.
Yeah. And I think it leaves people with so much shame and embarrassment to have to be dealing with this. And that kind of leads, in my opinion, to normalizing it, right? Because if I say it like it's no big deal, then it's not as big of a deal as it really is. And inside, I'm hurting so badly having to have done this to protect myself physically.
Yeah,
So I
totally.
think, yeah, there's a lot of shame involved in it sometimes for people.
Yeah, and I think about the contrast of when my son was 16 and we had to have him transported to wilderness for his safety, actually. Um, at that point, I hadn't felt physically unsafe around him. I felt very emotionally unsafe around him. It was like, okay, what landmine am I gonna step on today verbally that's gonna set him off? And when he went to wilderness therapy, and the next morning I told our younger son, your brother is somewhere safe. He's getting some help. He's getting a break from all the insanity that we've been living. And just the physical look on his face and his demeanor. And he was like back to that old, you know, happy-go-lucky
Yeah.
kid that I had not seen disappearing over the last couple of years. And the lightness in our home, the just I just, like, immediately recognized, "Oh my gosh, I can say whatever I want." Yeah. So I don't have to think about it, couch it, like, plan 6 ways to Sunday of how it might go. It was really astounding, the
It's
difference.
yes, it's a huge burden to carry that, especially when you have other kids in the home, because not only are you trying to protect yourself, but you're trying to protect the other kids. So when Parker was at the height of his active addiction, I actually had to draw a boundary and ask him to leave when he was 17 because of physical safety, not because he was hurting us, but he was bringing people and allowing people to know where we live that were very dangerous people
Right.
that he was interacting with. We did not feel safe,
Right.
and I had to do that. And this is embarrassing, but I didn't do it for my own safety. I did it for my younger daughter's safety.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have done it for me. Speaking of normalizing the abnormal, um, it's a really hard thing to do. But same, when we did that and when Parker actually made the choice to leave because the drugs were so important to him at that point, um, Cassidy's demeanor changed tremendously because we were both trying to carry the burden of, are we safe? What's he going to be like when he comes home tonight? Is it just is too much? So the emotional safety that goes along with the physical safety is a lot to bear.
It is huge. And yes, I was gonna ask you what just for some examples, because I think examples are helpful. So that example of, your child's bringing dangerous people around and mine did the same. And that's exactly what we did. We were actually in the middle of a move, or not in the middle of a move, but we were moving. And because he hadn't, we gave him the option of not using and participating and helping in the move and going to school and getting a job. And if you could do all those things, you can move with us. And he did none of those things. He actually was doing the opposite.
Hmm.
So we also had to say, you can't move with us, nor can you even know our address, because we were so afraid of the people that he was bringing around and dealing with. And
That's so hard.
it's so hard. And are there other examples of either emotional or physical safety that took place with you that you would wanna share just as a way for people to relate?
Sure. Well, anybody who's like taken a workshop from me knows I always say I lost, Parker was using for 9 years, but I lost 3 years of my life, I say, to my emotional disconnect from life because it's the only way I knew how to get through before I had skills. Uh, I didn't really have any skills and I wasn't getting counseling in the beginning. And once I started getting coaching and had a counselor, I got some more skills. But before that, um, I remember I had made Parker and everything about Parker and his addiction my life. It was like my idol. He was my idol,
Right.
in the true sense of it, spiritually. He was all I thought about. He was the reason I didn't sleep at night. He dictated how my days went. And so I was just going through the motion of life. And once I started getting some coaching and some counseling and was able to kind of back away from that even 2% so that perspective could start entering in through that little tiny gap that I left open, I was able to draw some kind of really clear boundaries about what I was and wasn't willing to accept. So I'm constantly telling parents like, who say like my kid is calling me names and swearing at me and telling me what a horrible person I am. I always like to say to the kid, I love you too much to allow this to enter our relationship because it's going to have detrimental effects. So I'm going to walk away until such a time when you can speak to me with respect. We can pick this up later and to walk away.
Yep.
And if they follow you, to walk away to a place where they can't follow you, be it in your car to take a drive. But I hate having parents leave the house. So my preference is that you stay in your home, which is your sanctuary and your home, and you go into your bedroom, or if you have to go in your bathroom and lock the door just to be away from them and have that physical boundary, it's really important. But you could use that same line until they believe you.
Yeah.
Because at first, what would happen is I would draw a boundary with Parker and he was not used to that. So he didn't believe me. So he'd keep pushing.
Right.
But when I was consistent with my words, and my counselor gave me that one, I love you too much to allow this to be a part of our relationship.
I love that.
I would say that over and over. I mean, hundreds of times I have said that. And I say that now. Like, even if my daughter and I get into a little where the communication is going, I'm like, look, Cass, I love you too much to let this be part of our relationship. Let's pick this up in an hour
Yeah.
or in a day.
Yeah.
It draws a boundary. And even if he wasn't respecting it, it let me have the space and time I needed to get myself to be emotionally in a safe space.
Yes. That
That I think that's one.
yes. I bet people are gonna rewind right here and go back through exactly what you just said. It is so much more powerful to say that, what you said, "I'm not willing to let this part be part of our relationship," and then step back, step away, get get that space between you, versus what I think happens most of the time, and what I also did before I had any skills, which is you just start this screaming match,
Yep.
and it just becomes a power struggle. It gets uglier and uglier and more unsafe, right? Because
Yes.
especially if they're under the influence, which, of course, we would always say never, never, never engage if they're under the influence. Sometimes it's a little hard to tell depending on your child, so
Right.
it will just escalate, it will go nowhere.
It gets
Things ju
so intense. It gets
Yes.
so intense. And then the fear and uh, the fright, everything takes hold and you're not even speaking the words you want to speak.
No, ugly things get said that
Correct.
first of all, ugly things get said that you really don't mean, and also sometimes things get said that you will not stick to. So you might, in that rage, you're not allowed to live here anymore.
Yeah.
I'm taking away your car. Like you make all of these
Threat.
yeah, threats and
Threats.
consequences that you know you are not going to hold, but you just are at your wits' end and you're screaming. So what Dina recommends here as far as this tactic for dealing with somebody who's yelling and in your face and disrespectful, it takes a lot of self-control. It takes being like regulated in yourself, which is why we're always talking about whatever you need to do, whether it's yoga or walking in the woods or something to get
Yeah.
yourself to a point where you can actually do this. And I'm so glad that you said you had to do it hundreds of times because they will at first push and push and push because the minute you start holding this boundary, they're going to be like, "Wait a minute, I don't like this one bit."
Right.
S-
Exactly. But
I
then they
used to
start
get
taking you serious because they
yes.
see that you really will walk away from it. But more importantly, you won't engage.
Yes.
So when it becomes unhealthy for either of you, that you decide you hit that pause button and you decide that you're not going to engage, but always with that loving remark. Like, look, Parker, I love you too much to allow this to continue in our relationship. It's going to do damage. I'm going to say things, and you could be the person to be the bigger person.
Right.
I'm going to say things that I'm going to regret. And I don't want to do that. I want to keep our lines of communication open. So I'm going to walk away. Doesn't mean I'm not going to come back. But in a rageful moment, you can't say all of that. So I just say, I love you too much to allow this to enter our relationship.
Yeah.
If you want to go into more explanation and you can do it without getting too wordy and without getting emotional, fine. But if not, just stick to that one sentence and you say it over and over again and then walk away. Um, it works. It
It
really does work.
It does. And I like what you said about if possible, don't leave your home because I think there's a signal in that of like, this is not my space. So if you can stay, I remember I would sometimes go for a walk, which is leaving the home, but it made me feel so much better that, and I
Yes.
would say, what I need right now is to walk and to cry. And I'm sure many of you probably did too. I had so many neighbors that probably wondered what the heck was going on because I would walk around our neighborhood crying, ugly crying with the
Yes.
Kleenex and, but it helped just to
Mhm.
move my feet, have some fresh air, get away, and it is amazing, even with a kid who and both of ours were, I would say, on the high end of extreme. By the time I would come back, usually he would be gone, which was good because I didn't
Mhm.
want him there. Or if he was there, he actually had noticed that I had taken the time to do something and take a time out, and he had calmed down. It wasn't like unicorns and rainbows or
No,
anything.
but even a notch helps.
Mhm.
Even a notch.
Yeah.
Because what I found is if both people come back and they're just a notch different, I oftentimes would start with, and I've told people this over and over again, by humbling myself first and saying, I need a do over on that. I totally, excuse my language, F that up.
Yeah.
And it's not who I wanted to be with you today in this conversation. So would you please allow me to do that again? And it kind of was like it would take him aback, like, oh, so you don't know everything kind of,
Right.
idea.
Right.
Or you don't know how to do things perfect all the
Right.
time because sometimes our kids get the idea that we are know it all and we give them that idea because we sometimes try to direct them in every single way. But it was like if he would say, I don't care, sure. And I'd say, well, I'd like to start off by apologizing. Um, it just gets things going in a much lovelier way.
Yes. And it requires that humility, and I think a lot of parents struggle with this because they feel very disrespected, and
Mhm.
it is hard to humble yourself and to be the bigger person in a situation where you feel like you've been and you have been
Right.
disrespected,
I'm
no
not
doubt.
discounting that. Like
Yeah,
to be respectful to a kid who has been nothing but awful to you and who has not even treated you like a human being. But I kind of take it out of the person. How do I want to project myself as a human being? I always want to treat people with dignity, even when they're not nice enough, kind enough, big enough to treat me with dignity.
yeah,
I'm still going to go in with dignity. I'm still going to do that.
yeah,
And it's hard, but it's like a human moral stance, right?
yeah,
Um, the other thing that does is it shows them how to be. And you may think, "Oh, they're so far removed from that. They're high, they're this, they're that." They are. They're all of those things that you're saying. Having said that, at some point, they're gonna think about that, and they do, and they hear you, and you've brought them up right, and so those kind of things penetrate their heart. Parker's 9 years sober this year, and the things I've learned from him in the 9 years of sobriety about what he did and didn't listen to when he was using blows my mind.
mm.
He remembers things I said to him that I don't even remember. He was listening.
Oh my gosh, they are listening, and more than listening, they are watching. and they are watching how we respond. They are watching how we have self-control or don't have self-control,
Yes.
all of those things, and yeah, it I think it this also brings up for me going back to behaviors make sense, and that if they are being this way, nasty and disrespectful and all of those things, there's a reason. There's a reason they are. It
And it
might
doesn't
s
make it right,
No,
right? It doesn't make that
no.
behavior right, but there absolutely is, and I think we need to be curious to find out what it is.
Yes. Like, when I'm being nasty to my husband and
Yes.
whatever, and irritable, there's always a reason,
Mhm.
always. And so that's just a good kind of if you're stuck with this, "Yeah, but they're being so disrespectful." If you really understand there is a reason underneath there, you might not know it now, you might not know it for a very long time, if ever. But
Mhm.
humans only do things because it's working for them and there's a reason that they're doing it. So, um, what other boundaries would you say would be important to think about? So we talked about like taking that pause, getting the space, not accepting this, kind of rude, disrespectful, emotionally unsafe behavior. Is there another boundary that you work with your coaching clients that you see is really important in this conversation?
Well, the conversation about name calling, that's a big one. And then threatening, of course. The other thing is the space. Like I hear a lot of parents say, um, I had told my kid that there's no substances allowed in their room. But what do I do about that? And when it happens, I've just kind of like, thrown it away or I haven't said, but I don't say anything to them because I don't want to make them angry.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, we've lost perspective. This is your home.
Yes.
You're paying the mortgage. And yes, until your kid's 18, it's oftentimes difficult to say you can't live here. But I do think it's okay to go in their room. Like, and that's controversial because I know a lot of people are like, it's their private space. Yes, as long they have earned that private space, as long as they abide by your rules.
Yes.
But when you've said no marijuana in the house and you walk down the hallway and it's reeking of marijuana, you have every right to go into that space of your house that you own
Yes.
and say to them, "No, you this is not acceptable. You're gonna clean up this room, and here are the consequences of you not being able to respect, the expectations of this house." Because I always tell parents to think about this. Would you, in a lease, have rules for someone you are renting a room to? You would. And if one of them would be no drugs or alcohol in your room, the same thing should be true for your child. Just because you have an emotional connection to them doesn't mean that they get to make your home feel like their home and not yours.
Right.
So I've even with parents whose kids have been really resistant to that and have been under 18, I've said, you could say to them, first offense, I throw away anything I find. Second offense, I'm going to take your door off because the privacy that I would love to give you, you're not respecting for me. So to do that.
Mm.
And then you can think of a third, like you can't spend the night here if you come home high or something like that. So for 24 hours, they all have friends that they can go spend the night with.
Right.
But it's sometimes uncomfortable enough for them to not have their space they're so used to and taking for granted that they come back and they thought about, "Oh, I just can't do it inside the house. They didn't say I couldn't do it outside the house."
Right.
So it makes them think a little differently. I think making your space is super important because I've seen so many parents who are leaving their own home because it's
Yes.
that uncomfortable for them. And I hate to see that.
Oh, yeah, that is heartbreaking. It's like you work your whole life, right, to have a home, whether
Mhm.
you own it or rent it, it doesn't matter. Like you work and then you set up that space so that you, at the end of the day, with all the insanity that we deal with in this world, that you can come home and be in a safe, comfortable place, and that also yes, that breaks my heart to hear that a parent would leave that. It really does come back to not being afraid to parent, not being
Mhm.
afraid to have the, parental authority to say, "This doesn't sit well with me. I'm not willing to offer you a room where you can smoke marijuana in my house."
Yes.
And it is I love what you just said. It's not just you. I wouldn't offer that to anybody.
Correct.
Wouldn't offer it to I
And you're
guess.
here rent free. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like, if you start putting perspective into it, it's like, but they're like, but it's my kid. Correct. But you wouldn't allow anybody to do that.
correct.
And so if that rule can be across the board, you have every right to say it to your kid and to adhere to it. Um, it always blows my mind too when parents find things and they're afraid to confiscate them. I cannot tell you how many things I took away from Parker's room and threw away. I mean, probably thousands of dollars
Right.
worth of things. I mean, and I had a box that I would put them in. I don't know why, but I had a box that I would put them in thinking I'm going to take it to the police station. I'm going to
Right.
do this. I'm going to do that. But I would keep that box and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger until I finally did hand it over to the police. No information whatsoever, and they were great. They took it and got rid of it. But I just think parents, that's part of that perspective problem.
Yes, totally. And I know why you are hesitating to do it because number 1, you might not know what the response will be, and it could be pretty aggressive. They're gonna freak out for sure. They're
Mhm.
not gonna be happy. So, I think where the struggle comes is I'm gonna do like, maybe things have been pretty calm in your house for the last couple weeks, and you're like, "Hallelujah," right?
Yeah,
Like, they're going to school mostly, they're going to their job, like, things are trending in a pretty good way. Then you find the big bag of weed, pills, whatever it is, powder, and you're like, "No."
yeah,
It was going so well, and I know when I take this, it is going to all erupt again.
yeah,
There's gonna be ugly words, there's gonna be drama, there's gonna be and I think for a lot of us, it's like my nervous system can't handle that. I'm too exhausted. I'm too like, I just need some peace, and so we let it go,
mhm.
and I understand that. I totally
Me too. It's
understand that.
exhausting.
It is beyond exhausting, and so I think what I just wanna make sure and say is we hear you and we understand why you might make the choices that you make, which is why you've gotta get yourself surrounded by strong people, get in our community, get in Al-Anon, get in whatever you need to get in to give you the stamina and this mental fortitude to say, "Well, we've had a great 2 weeks. This sucks. Here we
Right.
go." And so that you can follow through.
And I think that's such important perspective, Brenda. Like, we've had a great 2 weeks. Let's put that and like keep a little thing like this. And here's a positive. Here's a positive. Write down your positives
Yeah,
because I think it's too easy to allow the imbalance of the negatives to take over and
yeah,
say, during those 2 weeks, he's gone to school, he's done this, he's done that, he's done this and that. You know what I mean? And there's 5 wins. This is a big lose, but at least I can have perspective that there's been wins
yeah.
along the way. So then maybe in the conversation, it could be more of a measured conversation. Like, look, things have been going great and it's been a relief for me. It's probably been nice for you not to have me nag you. We have a pretty big hiccup right here. And that is that I found this bag of pills in your room, which is not okay in any way, shape, or form. And therefore, blah, 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 blah is going to happen.
Mhm.
You've given the positives,
Yes.
but you kept perspective. You're not like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Who found these pills in your room? And, I
Yes.
think, again, a measured response is important. And I would say the other really important thing to not make the abnormal normal is to talk to other parents, like you said. Hope Stream's a great place to get perspective because a lot of the parents have been through this before you've been through it. So they can offer a lot of help, but also get a coach. If you need
Yes.
a coach to set boundaries, partnership is great. Get a coach, even for just a couple of sessions, um, to set a boundary and see how it goes presenting the boundary and how you might need to change the boundary a little bit. But once you do one, you will feel so empowered. Like, do one and follow through. You'll feel so empowered, it will become easier.
Yes. It's so true. That just that one little win of and maybe it didn't go perfectly, but it went pretty well. And it starts to build on that confidence and like, "Oh, I can do this." And they see that you can do it. I will never forget when I set a boundary of if you are high when you come home and disruptive and whatever, you're gonna need to leave and come back when you're sober. Now I
Mhm.
know that's different. Like we had Beth Hillman on, she's a great coach a couple weeks ago, and she said the opposite. She said, "I told my son he could come home anytime as long as it didn't matter if what condition he was in." Right? So this and I highlight that just to let you know that it's different for every family. There
Absolutely.
is not one way to do this. I got to the point where it was so disruptive to myself, but also to my younger kids that I couldn't have him because he didn't just like
Mhm.
slip in and then just pass out in bed.
Yeah.
It's like,
Quietly go to his room.
no, it was like mayhem, like the TV commercial with the mayhem
Yes.
guy. It was like that, like complete mayhem coming in
I
at two
think it's
o'clock in the
all
morning.
state. Yes.
Yes. So the first time I had to hold that boundary when he came home with a girl, no less, who was also very, very under the influence.
Lovely.
And I went down the stairs and they were crawling into his bed at the ripe old age of 16. And
Oh my.
I mean, talk about
Like one slap in the face, then the other.
amazing. And I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." I said, "This is not going to work out. Enzo, you know the rule. You're not allowed to be here if you're in this condition." Well, you're going to put a girl out on the street. And, I mean, he played all the games with my mind. We And I said, "You're right. I do not wanna put this girl out on the street. Honey, give me your mom's phone number. I will tell her that, and she can come pick you up, or I will drop you off at your house. Enzo, you need to leave." And I will never forget seeing them walk down our sidewalk at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, "What the hell? Like, what kind of mom does this?" To her kid who she knows is intoxicated, is with
Yeah.
this girl who is extremely vulnerable right now because she refused to give me her mom's phone number. I can't imagine why.
Yeah.
And she refused to let me drop her off at her house. So I said, "Okay, this is my boundary. This is what I need to do for my sanity, for my younger kids." Like, and it was torture. And
You're
I
right.
did not have a coach. I did not have Hope Stream, I didn't have anything, and I really did think, like, I think I'm gonna die of a broken heart right now, right? Because
I
it's
hear you.
painful. But I'll tell you what, I think I only did that one other time because he knew I was serious. I was not messing around, and it really made an impact.
I think it does make a tremendous impact, but while you're doing it, and I'm glad you said that and told that story, because while you're doing it, it was the most painful thing, because I had Parker shockingly still was going to school because he was a senior, and he was still I didn't know that he was, though, when I kicked him out. I called the school, and his attendance record had been perfect.
Wow.
He was still going to school, but a counselor called me and said, "Oh, I had my session with Parker today, and he tells me he's sleeping on the stairs at San Jose State. Can you tell me about that?"
Oh, wow.
I and I was part of the school system, so
Right.
they knew me.
Yeah.
talk about feeling like a piece of poop
Yeah.
and like the worst mother ever. So that was an opportunity for me to say, well, he's been in trouble at school oftentimes, and I've come to his rescue oftentimes, and that's not working. And I was feeling that we were in danger, so he can't stay here. She understood, it was fine, but 3 months later, I had a counselor call me and say, "You must let him home. He's looking horrible," and I did, but he had, changed quite a bit in that 3 months
Yes.
because they take for granted what they have at home,
Yeah.
but it wasn't easy.
Oh my gosh. It is not for the faint of heart. And I sometimes think, you know, we talk in the community a lot about being SEAL team parents, right? And I
Yes.
think not everybody can be a SEAL team member in the military. Takes an extraordinary person to do that, and I really believe it's the same for us. I think we were chosen to be their parents because, A, we can do it. We don't always think we can do it, but we can do it, and the gift it gives us in the end of all the things that we learn and how much we grow as a person. I
Mhm.
just think how much I would have missed out on if I had never been through this experience, and so we
It's a rough journey, but it works. All the things you learn, you use in every aspect of your life because, like I said, Parker's been sober for just about 9 years now. I'm using those skills every single day with everybody in my life.
Me too.
Boundary setting, good communication, taking a pause, green lights, red lights. I mean, those are all good skills.
Totally.
But don't give up your home. Don't
Don't
give up
give up
your
your
home.
home. Don't give up your home. Don't give up your emotional or your physical safety. There are ways, and I know it can seem impossible. Somebody might be listening to this and going, "Yeah, but," and they're
Mhm.
thinking their case is different and unique. I'm not saying this to be mean, but it's not. Literally between Dina and all the coaches and facilitators and myself and Kathy, we have literally, I think, worked through pretty much every situation that is out there, including things like grandkids, that are involved when I mean, you name it, we've seen it. So
Right.
there is a way. It is probably gonna be very uncomfortable. It's probably gonna be very painful, and that's
And
why you get somebody to work through it with you, right?
right, and I think it's incremental. I don't think you go from not setting boundaries to having these big boundaries that are so hard that you can't do them. You start with incremental boundaries and you practice with the little things first so that as you get empowered, you can stick to the consequences that you set forth in the bigger ones.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Thanks for saying that because that is true. I remember I started with Um, like, my son was supposed to empty the dishwasher before he went anywhere. So silly, right? Like, it's just silly, and he would never do it. And I would
Mhm.
just be like, "Okay, well, it's just the dishwasher, it's not that big of a deal." But then I realized it was a big deal because that was his responsibility, and so you're right, like, I just worked on that. Like, I'm just gonna work on holding my boundary about, "Yeah, you can go out as soon as the dishwasher's emptied. No problem. Go." You know? Not easy. So
No. But I think that's important to not feel because a lot of parents feel like when they can't set a big boundary that, oh, they're failing. But let's start small and then move up to those bigger boundaries. You've been living with it this long. So if you start small, you're still in a better position.
correct. Yes, any little movement toward that is better, but yeah, we really wanted to talk about this because we do see so many people just living in this situation that is not quote unquote normal or healthy within the kind of, you know, range of normal. And it's so easy to get there. I got there. I was there so yeah. And Dina's raising her hand if you're not watching. Like it's very common, and so don't feel bad like you failed or like you know. Oh my gosh, just know that you can start to take those little steps back towards safety. And they may have to be big steps depending on your situation, right? It may be like with us, we were not so much afraid for our safety, but for our son's safety. And we had to make a very big move to get him to a place of safety. And you may have to do something similar to get yourself in that place. So, well, we will put a link in the show notes to how you can get a hold of Dina. She does coaching for us in the community, but she's also available to do coaching with you if you're listening. And there's also, we always like to share the Partnership to End Addiction. It's drugfree.org. They have coaches that you can get connected with. They also have this really awesome text, Hope and Help by Text, I think is what it's called.
Mhm. It's very
And
cool.
it's very cool, and you enter like, you just put in some basic information, and the texts that you get are very timely, and they're also relevant to your situation, so that's a good way, and those all their services are free, so if you're and I think you have to be in North America, I wanna say. I know we have listeners from all over, but if you're in North America and you need some support, they also have a helpline that you can call, like, let's say you
Mhm.
just somebody to, like, walk through some stuff with you. Make an appointment, talk to the helpline. They're just an absolutely priceless resource, most underrated resource ever. I think people just don't know. So drugfree.org. And then obviously for
Oh, stream.
moms, yeah, for moms, you can join us in the stream community, moms and female caregivers. We have sisters, we have grandmothers. It's not just moms. So if you're feeling like, man, I really want to help somebody and you're not their mom, that's totally fine.
Mhm.
So, well, thank you.
Thanks, Brenda.
Before I let you go, if you could only give a mom one or a dad one skill, mindset, tool, strategy, whatever you want to call it, when their kiddo is struggling, what one thing would you give them?
Find a place or a space to get perspective,
Hmm.
because when you're in it, perspective is hard to come by. It drowns you. And so if you can either walk away for 5 minutes, it's better the longer it is. Um, so of course, like if you could go on a women's retreat, that would be fantastic. But that's not always possible. But if you could walk away for 5 minutes and breathe some air, it will give you a tiny bit of perspective that might prevent you from getting into a point where you've lost all perspective.
Mm,
And if you could do that daily, it has to do with your mindset and it has to do with not losing perspective. And a lot of the parents I coach just need somebody that will offer a different perspective because they're in it so deep, they're drowning.
mm,
So time and space,
love
time and
it.
space. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda.
It was
Always
super
a pleasure to
fun.
chat with you.
It's always so great, and this will be a gold mine for anybody listening, so we appreciate your time, and we'll do it again soon.
Sounds good. Take